Here we go. All right, so placing my hands on my heart. Taking that deep cleansing breath of love and gratitude. So grateful for this time to come together. So grateful for the laughter, grateful for mischievous kittens that keep me on my toes and amuse us throughout the day. Grateful for our willingness to be the two or more gathered in the name and the nature of love. Grateful for our willingness to eliminate all illusion, any and all blocks to love. Oh my Lord. Grateful for our mighty companions and for Spirit allowing me to get my train of thought back. Grateful to be able to share the blessings that we receive from our conversation today with everyone, because we're one with them. In grace and gratitude, we let it be, and so it is. Amen. Oh my goodness. Never a dull moment. All right.
Reminds me of Angela and Justine when she was little.
Oh my
Always
gosh,
sitting on her
yeah.
lap and play. Yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly that. So we're in, just double checking that I'm on the right pages. Yeah. We're in the Manual for Teachers again. It's my page 23, 24, and 25. How can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? And are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? And I'm going to start us with the second one because, yeah, I'm just going to start us in our changes required in the life situations of God's teachers. Changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. This may or may not involve changes in the external situation. Remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. It is most unlikely that changes in attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. There is, however, no set pattern, since training is always highly individualized. There are those who are called upon to change their life situations almost immediately, but these are generally special cases. By far, the majority are given a slow evolving training program in which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. Relationships in particular must be properly perceived and all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. Otherwise, the old thought system still has a basis for return. When I read that, it was like the definition of the lesson 135, paragraph 18, the what could you not accept if you not but knew that everything was gently planned by one whose only interest is your good. And that is a challenging one for me to accept a lot of times. So that's why I try and keep it in the forefront of my mind. When anytime that I am in upset about something that is happening or not happening the way that I would like it, now all I need to say is, what could you not accept? And that just reminds me to just laugh at the fact that I think I know how it should be. Exactly. Who the heck do I think I am that I think I know how everything should be? I don't know anything. I forget that part. So, yeah. So I feel like that was kind of the premise of both of these sections. So that's where I'm starting us off. Anyone like to share what they got from the readings today?
I'm sorry, Linda. First of all, you're gorgeous. I love your new do. Oh my
No,
God.
thanks. It's a little short for me, but that's okay.
Oh, I think it's really darling.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I don't know where we are.
Oh, that's okay, honey. We are in the Manual for Teachers in my book because it's separate from the other two sections. It's
Mhm.
pages 23, 24, and 25. How can perception of order of difficulties be avoided? And are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers? And that's where I just read from the second one.
All right. And the second one was,
Are changes required in the life situation of God's teachers?
all right. Well, thank you. I'm trying to find myself. So please go forward, everybody.
Thanks for asking, Robin. Anybody else like to share from the reading or from their life? What's going on? Go ahead, Leslie.
I just have a quick question. Has anybody heard from Kathy? The one whose roof?
Kathy Curry?
Yeah.
Their roof
Okay.
is fixed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen her or Carol or.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay. Have you heard from Carol?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Carol. We've texted back and forth a couple of times. She's doing okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I think she's in the middle of moving and or packing anyways.
Yeah, it's both, but
yeah,
it's
and the holidays.
It's just in holidays. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, right. And then I just wanted to say, Linda, I love seeing Sonny behind you.
Oh,
That's lovely. He was just on the couch.
yeah, he's all over the place.
Yes. So
It's like
sweet.
a living, breathing pinball machine.
As kittens should be.
Yes.
As far as these two sections go, I just thought they were excellent. I don't have anything in particular to share. I did like this same section 9, are changes required in the life situation for God's teachers. Just the second paragraph, sentence 4. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. Not because it's difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. And I don't know why that cracked me up, but it just did. It was like, we so think we know what the plan should be. And just like Jesus said, it's not that you shouldn't judge, it's that you can't judge.
Right.
And I had a beautiful demonstration of this at work yesterday where I actually got to see two sides of the problem, one coming from this perspective and one coming from this perspective. And I was able to bring love and kindness to both sides.
Wow.
And it was just so beautiful how I got to observe the beauty of it, that this person was judging this person was judging this person. And it was just a stupid mistake that so many people could and did judge it as personal and hateful and harmful. And it wasn't, because I could see and talk to the person on the other side. And it's just so humbling. It just reminds me how kindness and love is always the answer. And I was able to bring both sides there. I mean, not together, but I was able to bring love and comfort to this side and love and kindness to this side. And I think we're all okay now. So it was just, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It was.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. I highlighted that same sentence. It made me laugh too. Yeah, it's apt to be perceived as personally insulting. I mean, and really you can like in the moment, having a personality believe that the death of a loved one could be for their good, or the terminal illness of a loved one or of themselves could be for their good.
Or personal pain.
Exactly. I mean, that totally can be perceived as insulting. And that's, yes. I feel, again, that's why Gary Renard said, don't be weird, don't go to a funeral parlor and say, well, none of this is real. This is all an illusion.
Right.
Because that's just not being compassionate. So, yeah, I thought that was funny too.
You know, and it's so true. It's like what person A said was wrong. It was a stupid mistake. But when person B is going through a personal tragedy, she'll never understand where person A was coming from.
Right.
You know, and that's okay. They don't need to, but you're right. That's personally insulting. That it would be wrong of me to try to defend this person.
Exactly.
So it was just, I loved it. I'm like, thank you, God. That lesson is going to stay with me for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Leslie. Carla, go ahead, honey.
Okay. Oh, I'm already muted. So I want to just bring something up. Who is insulted? Because can love be insulted? It's always like, I guess in the prayer room, somebody said, ego uses ego to preserve ego. It makes it seeming like it's something else, but it's not. So before I share this, I'll say, we are a spirit having a human experience. Have you ever seen children? They're playing a game and they have roles and they're in the game, and all of a sudden they start fighting because they're like roles, or it's so, and then 5 minutes later they've forgotten. They're upset and they're like loving each other and like that is us in a way. We've forgotten. We're just here to play a role. And what is that role from flame is to extend God. That's our role, to love. So to the things now, I don't have lines, numbers, because there's no numbers, but I know it's the first paragraph in perception of, I think, the order of the belief in the order of difficulties is the basis for the world's perception. It rests on differences. And then further down, it says, what the body's eyes behold is only conflict. Look not to them for peace and understanding. And then the third paragraph, I know it's first couple lines. Where do all these differences come from? Certainly, they seem to be in the world outside, yet it is surely the mind that judges what the eyes behold. It is the mind that interprets the eyes' messages and gives them meaning. That was very key. We see we see a chair. It's not a chair. It's our favorite chair that Grandma gave us. It's a story added to it. Or I don't like that because, and everything after the because is, what is that? It's just made up. We make up meaning and stories and believe it's true. And that was one of the things that I think I had something from the other section, but I can't go there quickly. But at paragraph 5, there can be no order of difficulty in healing, merely because all sickness is illusion. So they don't mean sickness of the body, the heart. I mean, look, there is no sickness, and that even that, because God wouldn't make bodies to fail. We create the negative, but it's amazing to me as much upset negative that I have brought forth in his life. And there's like, what, 7 or 8 billion of us doing that? And like, where does it go? It doesn't go back to God, really. It just floats around here, appearing as garbage or illness, and it's this negative energy. So let's not join the negative energy with more negative energy. I'll say one more thing before I noticed when he painted the bathroom that there's something wrong with the mirror. It just wasn't put up right. And it seems, I don't know, but like it was put up in a way that so it would fall down at some point, fall off the wall because it wasn't put up right. It's really challenging to me. And who am I? I'm the ego. I'm not. That's always the ego. It's not love. To bless the renter, thinking that he had to do this stuff because it's a story, but his toe, and neighbors told me that he cut his toe off the first month that he lived here. His freaking big toe off, and they attached it back, but I suspect that big toe will never be the same.
Ah,
And it's gonna probably hurt. And he's angry at me and at the house because if he hadn't come here, if I hadn't given him such a good deal, it's my fault because it would never have happened. I mean, I don't know what the mind goes places, and he and a lot of the world believe it. I see it every day that I do that. But less so. I'm not upset with myself. It's the ego wants to get in there, get its hooks in there and cry and make me upset. I'm not. I'm happy that I'm seeing this more clearly than ever because I am not leaving this body before I master my mind and the body. It may not need to change. I don't need it to be a certain way, but to accept it the way it seems to be. Because I have lived half a century with, I don't know when it starts, probably less than half a century, but really being upset with my body. And I'm so blessed that it's doing so well with all the negativity that I friggin' did to it. Poor thing. I love you. Forgive me. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Carla. Mitzi. And there you are. I just want to let
Yeah.
you know that you're sideways.
Oh, I'll do this.
There you are.
Okay. I'm on my phone. I started outside, then I lost connection. So I'm back. And I wanted to piggyback a little bit. I didn't hear all of last week's video. So I played it this morning because there were pieces that I missed just tuning in the very end. And of course, one lesson flows into the next. But I wanted to just say something back on the conversation from last week that I really know how a lot of people were expressing how they feel, because I started with this Course in Miracles in 2016, and I've had periods where I was like so hopeful and feeling like I was getting my mind right, so to speak. I was on this journey that was new and felt real and true. And but a few times during then, and especially in 2020, I don't remember now what it was that threw me off, but I took my Course in Miracles books, all my spiritual books, my Byron Katie books. I took them all out and unceremoniously tossed them in the trash. And I said, this is garbage. This is bullshit. This is just magical thinking. And I am not doing this to myself anymore. This is just insane. And And I went trying to find another way, but I never got rid of the link of these messages coming up for Tuesdays. That was always there, and periodically I'd go in and I'd listen. And as time goes by, though, I would remember many things that I learned in Masterful Living and from the classes that on Tuesdays. And although there's so much I don't understand, I think that today's lesson reminded me I'm not in this spot by accident. Because a lot of times I just hate myself for my decisions in the past and for this constant battle with my mind. I want to say that's where my pain comes. It's my mind, and being disappointed that when I look out, so much of what I see is what I want to see. And I'm still programmed, like it says in today's lesson. I'm just seeing a validation of what I want to see. And that's the part that I'm most interested in I don't want to say change, but I do want to say change. I want to change the way I what I want to see, so that I will see things differently. I will see them more lovingly. I will really live out compassion, like Leslie was just talking about, being able to not judge either side, including myself, just being compassionate. But I understand when people have that doubt, because I was like, this is just crap. and I just threw it all. And then, months later, I was like, where are my books? I have to go buy books again. Luckily it's online. I won't replace it. But I go through cycles every now and then. But I feel like it's part of growth, that questioning, that realizing I really don't know anything. I don't know anything, except what I have truly experienced. And when I took time to really just be quiet and get to know what I know, then I'm back on track with the principles and the ideas in A Course in Miracles. There's so many things I don't understand, but I don't worry about them, because the things I do understand that have been true have really made a difference in my life, but it's hard when you're in those other spaces. And I don't say that I won't hit it again, of course, but I'm not feeling like I will, So thank you all. And I just appreciate all of the insights, especially who said it last week? It might have been Leslie. I was listening, who said, or it could have been Carla, not waiting for it not to be hard to be happy. Yeah. That's tall, drink water. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mitzi. I am right there with you. I had access to A Course in Miracles since the 80s, the early 80s. And I can't tell you how many times I put it down before I finally picked it up and thought, okay, this is it. It says it's required. So why am I avoiding it? So yeah, it's been 12 years since I've kind of really dedicated myself to working on living the course, and I still don't understand everything. So yeah, I'm right there with you, sister. Glad you're here. Glad you came back. Mary Lee, and then Leslie.
I have my major difficulty at this time when I read sentences, like in one of these first 3 paragraphs, all sickness, the first sentence of the 4th paragraph, there can be no order of difficulty in healing merely because all sickness is illusion. See, I have difficulty with that. I am fortunate at this time to be pretty healthy. I can't think of anything going largely amiss at this time. I certainly have had sickness in the past. And that doesn't ring for me, doesn't ring true for me. And perhaps Mitzi or others have thought, well, that's ridiculous. And so I have trouble with that. There's no part of me that thinks that's just an illusion, that a friend had a stroke and can't move. Oh, she's pretend. What does that mean? That there are scientific reasons, of course, for a stroke, a bleed in the brain or a clot. So to take this realistic physical plane that we are in and try to say it's just hogwash, it's not really, that is where I have a big difficulty with these lessons and can't resolve them. There's many, and again, I've only been doing Course in Miracles for a few months with these sessions, and there's much good. So I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to throw the whole thing in the trash, which I can understand though saying that, because how there is illness, how can one, by saying there is illness, saying those words to someone that can't walk across the room today because they've had a stroke, how do you resolve those words which appear to be in contradiction with our life experience on this earth?
You don't. Because we cannot understand what we're not ready to hear, if that makes any sense. Like if somebody told me 15 months ago, when I initially had the injury that I had that caused so much pain for the past several months, that it was for my good, I would have told them to shut the F up. Because I could not see that. But what I know now, as I am healing that, also what is healing, I feel within this body, is my central nervous system from the years of chronic stress and being on high alert with my husband's and my mother's health challenges. It was like I was in fight or flight all the time. And this injury and the pain associated with it made me lay on the couch and do nothing. And my personality was, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no, we don't want that. But the more that I resisted it, the worse it got. When I surrendered to it, that this is what this is for me to rest, even though I don't want to, it got so much easier. So I feel like it's the demonstration in action of I am not a body. Because you know, was that injury and that pain real? It sure seemed like it. But it's all an agreement that the separation was real. And so if I am not a body experiencing pain, and I can grasp that, or at least be willing to grasp that on some level, I let go of the illusion that I am in a body and this body is experiencing pain and challenges. But I'm not going to say that to somebody like Deborah, who is, I mean, Deborah has her own understanding of what's happened with her body since she's had her stroke. And I am not, I mean, Rand too, and Carla, I'm even Leslie with MS. I mean, everybody has their own experience of something that is appearing in their body, that I am not going to try and take that away from them if that's the experience that they're having right now, because that's not my job. This is their experience. That's why it says that everybody's is a little different. Where is it? There is, however, no set pattern, since training is always highly individualized. It's, yeah. So there are those who are called upon to change their life situation almost immediately, but these are generally specific cases. By far, the majority are given a slowly evolving training program in which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. We don't know what happened in our lives before we got here. We don't know if we even had a life before we got here. We don't know what happened in our ancestry before we got here, that we are here to heal. But honestly, we're not really here. We're only healing the thoughts and the judgments and the beliefs. But I'm not going to say that to somebody that's experiencing an illness, a challenge in their physical being and pain, and or the death or illness of a loved one. That is not my place. My place is to understand what's happening here, because there's only one, and this is the only one I have an effect on, if that makes any sense. But I can tell you, there are many times where I'm like, yeah, I'm not a body. Yeah, I can't believe that right now. It feels like it's real. So I can be grateful for the magic that is medicine and doctors and surgeons and you know, for as long as I am believing that I am appearing on this physical plane in this body.
And Mary Lee, I can tell you, it's taken me a long time to understand that sentence. The thing that helped me the most, and you might want to search on YouTube for a Ken Wapniak healing lecture or talk, because it wasn't until I just got it when he said, healing is not about physical healing.
Right.
Healing is about healing the mind. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. But you're right. If somebody just, my friend just had a stroke, I'm not going to say nothing about that.
Right.
I mean, that's just not compassionate. I mean, and even if somebody's, you know, Kathleen, we all have with her hip. I mean, we all, everyone on this call has something, except maybe Robin, who I know is healthy as a horse, but she knows people that aren't. But we all have something, and it is for our learning. And if you're just willing to understand, I think it's great that you're here, and this is tough stuff, but if you're just willing to learn, maybe you'll get a little glimpse of something that can be helpful to you. And the reason I raised my hand just before you kind of goes into this a little bit was, what was so neat about my story earlier was both of my good friends and coworkers, they both were like, oh, did you see that text? Did you get a text from that client? Oh my gosh, wait till you see. I mean, they were very excitable, you know, and then I blind copied them on my responses and then my responses. And then instantly they both were like compassionate. Instead of being judgy, they saw how compassionate I was. And they're like, oh gosh, I've made a stupid mistake like that too. I feel so bad for her. You know, it was just neat. So you never know just by being, you know, what's Gandhi say? Be the peace you want to see in the world. You know, that's how I'm a teacher. I can just teach by example. And that whole conversation was really spirit led. So, and thank you, Missy, for sharing your experience. I have never actually thrown any of my books away, but I've sure I think we've all gotten frustrated before. Jesus is asking a lot of us from this, and yet we're not alone and we're in this together and we can all do it. And Kathleen, I just want to say you look exceptionally beautiful today. You always do, but you really are glowing today.
Thank you, Leslie.
So I hope that helps a little bit, Mary Lee. Hang in there.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. I really needed to be with you guys. So I like the perception. Well, in my book, it's the 4th paragraph. It is the sorting out and categorizing activities of the mind that it is in sorting out and categorizing activities that errors in perception enter. It's here corrections must and can be made. The mind classifies what the body's eyes bring to it according to its preconceived values. It makes me think of Seth saying the purpose of life is value fulfillment. And, you know, as a group, we're changing our values. We are aligning our values with the Course in Miracles. And there's nothing more beautiful than this description of the characteristics of teachers of God. I mean, it paints a picture of a beautiful human being. And but anyway, what basis could be faultier than this? Unrecognized by itself, it has itself asked to be given what will fit into these categories. So that's how we create our own reality. We've got these categories in our mind, and everything, we're filling them up with what we think we see. And having done so, it concludes the categories must be true. On this, the judgment of all differences rests, because it is on this the judgments of the world depend. Can this confused and senseless reasoning be depended on for anything? So I just wanted to read what Robert wrote at the bottom. The mind, in other words, comes to the act of perception with its hierarchy of values, a collection of preferred categories that it wants to find examples of in the world. The mind first sends the body's eyes to find members of these categories. Then, as sense data come in, the mind sorts those data into these pre-made categories, even if the data doesn't fit them. Finally, having found, quote unquote, examples of these categories in the world, it concludes the categories must be true. In the end, the mind has simply projected its different categories onto a sensory field in which no real differences exist. The perceived differences then come from the mind, not the world. There's no difference between one thing and another that we're looking at. None. It's a blank screen, and we're assigning values to it. And luckily, we found the Course, so we're assigning ourselves the role of bringing peace, like you did, Leslie. And I just went over to see a friend of mine in Vero Beach. So I drove 2.5 hours to meet up with this young man that I've met through the drum circle, and I rented a house through VRBO that was cheaper than a hotel. It was $80 a night, and it was adorable and beautiful and clean. And he's in the process of moving from one house to another, and he's in huge just turmoil of his life. And I just slipped right in there and did whatever I could for him. And I went shopping with the Holy Spirit, and he's riding his bike to work, and I got him a helmet and a backpack and a reflector thing for to wear. And I just felt like I was walking around Walmart with the Holy Spirit going, okay, buy that, buy that, buy that. And I didn't care how much it cost me or what I was buying. I just followed the directions and brought him back and said, Merry Christmas, and you can pass it forward at some point in your life. He's got 4 kids. I mean, he's like, I'm like, wow, I remember I used to do all that. But anyway, it was really a wonderful experience. Every part of it, I allowed it to be wonderful, because a few little things came up and I'm like, no, I'm not going to feel hurt by that. Or so he's projecting a little bit on me. Big deal. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like taking an experience and letting it be wonderful, but then coming home makes me feel like crying again, because now I'm just like, okay, there's nothing wrong. Why do I feel like crying? So, anyway, that's why it's good to see all of you. Because it's just, I don't know what. I just listened to Robert Perry, that they just got done doing 6 weeks on the characteristics of God's teachers. I mean, they just did the same section. And of course, Robert Perry always says amazing things. And they're talking about how after you get to the point of getting it, the characteristics of a teacher of God, now you've got it. Now you can move beyond that and realize what we have been given by God, which is total love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth. They're not even listed here as characteristics because they're beyond this world. They're gifts. And you go into this state of rapture where you're just peaceful all the time. And you know how to be a teacher of God when you're in the dream, and you know that you're not really here, and you're totally surrounded by love, and you are love, and you are part of God. I know I'm going on and on, but that I was going to get on and ask for help with my hip, because it's getting harder and harder to walk. And I think, okay, if there's something deep inside me that needs to be removed, some block to the awareness of my own perfection, let it be removed. It's probably my whole bunch of beliefs about getting old. And, but I don't know for sure. So just asking for whatever blocks to the awareness of perfect health be removed. And if it doesn't, oh, well, I'm getting a new hip in February, but you know, as soon as my knee stopped hurting, my hip started hurting. Like, okay, something's going on here. But, you know, in the past, I've had trigeminal neuralgia and cancer, and all these things have just gone away magically. So I do know that we can heal through the body. We might not be aware of what we're healing, but it is happening. So thanks. Oops, where'd you go? I'm on my phone. Can you mute me? Because I'm lost.
Yeah, I can mute you, sweetie. And I just want to say, you are such an emanation of love. And for whatever reason that you want to cry, whether it be from pain or sorrow or gratitude or joy, we accept it, we take it in fully, and I'm just like this emanation of love that you are. Like, I feel like it's coming into my heart, and then I just gave it back to you. So I don't know, I had this image of, because you said your knee was bothering you, and then that was healed, and now it's your hip, like it's on its way up and out. So if your ribs start bothering you, you know it's almost out. Yeah. And in the meantime, yeah, if the hip replacement is supposed to happen, who knows why it's supposed to happen. Maybe you're supposed to be there like I was with the surgeon that was dealing with the challenges that I was having. I mean, I was the one that got to hold a loving space for him right before my surgery. You know, he was all upset because supposedly they were trying to get a hold of me because I could have come in earlier. But they only called me 15 minutes before I was supposed to be there anyway. So it wasn't like, you know, hours before. I would have loved to have been there earlier. 6:30 at night seemed late for me to have that surgical procedure, but you know, he was upset, and I could just be a loving presence for him and know that, you know, I don't know why he's upset. I know he's probably had a really long day and would really have loved to have gone home early. And I can totally relate to that. And that idea of this should not be happening this way. Oh my God. That's like one of my biggies. So yeah.
I know I really want to talk to him and the anesthesiologist and ask them if they'll talk to me while I'm under, and say loving things to me and how well I'm doing. So at least that'll put it in their mind to be careful what they're thinking, and to, you know, if they'll do it, fine. If they're too embarrassed or whatever to do that, then if they could just do it in their minds,
Yeah.
that I can join them. Yeah.
It's just so interesting. That's such a good idea, Kathleen. You know, I was in medical sales for 15 years, so I was in the operating room a lot because I sold different equipment. And they might be talking about golf or have music playing or whatever, but I was not always, but very frequently I was praying for the patient. You know, I'm just like, just the procedure and the patient. And so I think that's great that you're going to suggest that. That's awesome. And I just want to say, don't freak out. Then I like what Linda said, it might go to your ribs and then maybe your shoulder, and then you're going to know you're home free. and
Anyway.
Right. Well, and it's interesting about your tears because after you were so loving and so helpful to that young man, I mean, it makes me and I usually don't cry, but I feel very choked up right now because it was just so beautiful. And I think when the Holy Spirit is with you like that, that sometimes when we weep, that's just our expression of the whole gratitude and thankfulness that we're in a place to be able to be loving and to be helpful, and we recognize it, and we're so blessed to be here. So,
yeah, he definitely believes in God, and he's a Bible scholar, and he talked about parts of the Bible I didn't even know about. He's very, very thoughtful young man. And I was, you know, of course, talking a little bit about the Course in Miracles. And so, yeah, anyway, we just could relate on many different levels.
yeah, well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robin. Oh, you just muted yourself. You were already unmuted. There you are.
I just love everybody's shares, and for each one, I wanted to just be there with a cup of tea with that particular person and could relate to them, and wanted to just listen and open my heart. And I've got different histories here that are going to make me cry right now. I thought so, and my thought was about crying, and you all already know this, that it is healthy for us to cry when we're sad and when we're joyous, and it's a way to release and to let go and help heal our bodies and our minds. And I'm getting that with laughter now too. It's like, don't hold back. We need to laugh more. There's a particular little group that we laugh all the time, and it's so wonderful. And we just go into this place of timelessness. It's like we're just being here now. And so as I speak to the being here now, what I'm finding in these last weeks of the end of the lessons are always saying how well loved we are, how God is only gentle towards us. And it just goes on and talks about it in poetic sentences and uses these beautiful words that are always saying, you are loved, you are loved. You don't have to be frightened, just, you know, and so I'll end with this. The fact that we're each here showing up, this is all we need to do, is stay on the Mitzi. I'm so glad you're back. I remembered when you kind of left my thing, I said, she's gone somewhere. And I missed you. And so it's so sweet to have you back. I feel like wherever any of us are on our journey, and we're thinking we're not good enough or it's not working, the fact that we stick to something means that, and even if we don't, it's this universe that is taking care of us anyway, even if it appears like it's not. And we show up for ourselves and we show up for each other. And we really, there is the little willingness. I recognize that I have to, the spark of life is already in there with me. I just, to keep it going. And so that's rather random. I feel so embarrassed that I don't know where I was today when I usually read it before, and somehow I couldn't figure out what you were sharing with me. And I read something, but it was the wrong thing. I seem to be getting really good at reading the wrong thing. So thank you for letting me be here now with you all when I'm really not quite prepared. And that feels really important to me. It's just a blessing. Thank you for being with everyone and having a little history with each one.
Thank you, Robin. Reading the wrong thing is impossible. You're reading what's exactly perfect for you to be reading, even if it's not what we're all reading in the group. And you always have such beautiful insights, no matter if you're in the wrong section or the right section. I mean, he's saying the same thing over and over again because we're a little dense sometimes, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, Kathleen, go ahead.
Oh, I introduced to this young man, I mean, he's in his 40s, late 40s, the idea of forgiving his ex-wife because she's trying to keep his 7-year-old son from him. And I said, I'm going to put her on the Ho'oponopono list. And he's like, what's that? And so I explained Ho'oponopono to him as best I could. If anything my ancestor did to offend your ancestors, I'm sorry. If anything in me is causing anything in your upset, I'm sorry. And for him to, he just started thinking about that. And then he started saying he was practicing forgiveness of his boss at work. And so that kind of thing changes the world. It really does. You introduce the concept of forgiving somebody who you absolutely have the right to be really mad at, trying to keep your son away from you. It's like, he was able to get there, I think. I'm pretty sure. Oh, poop. Mute.
Yeah, that's impressive. Another thought that came to me about the tears before we move on, I saw you raised your hand, Carla, so just 1 second, and then it's you. Was I remember, I don't know if I read it or if I heard it, something about if we heard the physical voice for God, that our physical bodies would not be able to handle it. And so sometimes I feel like when it feels like the Spirit of God has really moved through us, or we've really allowed it to motivate us to do something, like we actually are giving over to the Holy Spirit, that it does move us to tears. Again, whether it's tears of gratitude or sorrow or joy, it's that, like, the Holy Spirit was in us so intensely that there has to be some kind of release. And what we're releasing is anything that is not of the Holy Spirit. And now we just lost Carla.
That was beautiful, though, Linda. That makes a lot of sense. Really.
Yeah. It just popped into my head. So I don't know. I honestly can't remember where I heard it or read it. But it just came to my mind. And I feel like, the people that aren't here, that used to be here, they're here. Carol and
Penelope
and all the people that used to be here that aren't here, they're here with us always. And I hope they feel that, because I feel that when we come together, whether they're here physically or not.
I just miss them though,
I
you
know,
know, but yeah,
but they're not gone.
that's true.
Yeah. So Carla and then Mitzi.
It's so amazing. Someone came to my door right when you were talking. That was next. So my mind wants to hold on to why I raised my hand. I'm not sure. So I'm really practicing. If I'm meant to speak about it, that it'll come out. So what comes to me is I think it was forgiveness. What is forgiveness? And Jennifer talked about forgiveness is letting go of the meaning you made of whatever it is. And it doesn't seem like forgiving whatever they do, because, you know, if they choose illusion, having to forgive that and let, you know, judge it and let it go, say, oh, it's not, I'm okay with that because that's this, and that. It's actually joining them in their illusion that they made this meaning that I'm going to do whatever they do. Then we make the meaning of what their meaning is, and we join them in the meaning of the illusion. So I don't know what paragraph it is, but I think it's the first reading. Paragraph 6, the very last line. It's so simple. The answer to all illusions is truth. Truth. Now, not truth that we think it is. And what is truth? What is the only thing there is? So we have to figure out what is the truth here. I can't understand it. What is the truth? There's only one truth: love. And it's not loving that, then it's loving ourselves. Because when we truly love ourselves, it can only extend, radiate out, and further extension of God. So that's what came out of my mouth. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. I love that truth. Mitzi, go ahead.
I piggyback on what Carla's saying, but that's what I was thinking. You know, I've never gotten the not a body part, but what I have experienced from time to time is that so many times when I've had something, and it could be an illness or even, well, I'll just go from there, and a really bad illness. Always what comes to my mind are meanings about how that's going to ruin my life, because I have plans, you know, and I have these ideas about what will make me happy, or, you know, what my place in the world is, what my image is, you know, like being super athletic or something. And then I got thyroid disease and that shot that to hell, you know, but I had this image to uphold in my head that was linked to my ideas of how I could be happy, how, you know, I could be accepted. And it's all that meaning. And it always comes back to when I get through the frantic part and the chaos of my mind, is loving myself and knowing that I can love myself however this turns out, you know, however long this lasts. And without, you know, these, because I have a lot of things with time. Time is a big obstacle for me. Things should be done in this order or in this amount of time or something. And when that doesn't happen, I have to repeat the lesson. But so it is self-love. It's loving myself even when I've screwed up. It's not judging others, because there's nothing to forgive. That lesson that comes back, and that is something that comes back to my mind often, learning that from Masterful Living and A Course of Miracles, that there is nothing to forgive. And that is only possible when I remember compassion. Then I remember not judging. I don't always remember. And so I know the course says it's about remembering, it's not like so much that woo-woo remembering something from a past life. If I just remember stuff from this life, and that'll be help. So thank you.
Good reminder, Mitzi. Yeah, I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. Bye, Leslie. So next week, we will continue in the Manual for Teachers. How is judgment relinquished? And how is peace possible in this world? In my book, it's pages 26 through 29. Just 2 short sections. And yeah, I'm just going to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, solstice tomorrow. I love you all so much. And reading today from Pathways of Light, Insights for Lesson 354. We stand together, Christ and I, in peace and certainty of purpose. And in him is his creator as he is in me. I have been playing a role of being in a body and making decisions on my own. I have gotten used to this role so that I have thought that this is what I am. I am now learning to step back from that role and see that this is not me. I have been merely acting in a play where separate bodies interact and each one makes decisions on its own. My practice now is to recognize that the play is just a dream and is not true. None of the actors are the individual selves they portray. They are really the Christ, like me. In reality, our true identity lies in the one Christ mind, where we are one, and the Christ is the extension of our Father. My practice today is to reinforce that there is no separation. There is only oneness in the mind of Christ, which is in the mind of God. My peace lies in remembering this truth. My peace lies in accepting my role as God created me. I can act another part, but that is not who I am. Today, it is my practice to accept myself as God created me. Here, the Christ is equated with God's Son as he created him. Thus, Christ represents the holy, innocent, sinless extension of love. The Christ is also equated with our self. It is the self that shares its purpose with its creator. In fact, it shares all that is with all. God is in the Christ. Christ is in me, and so God must be in me. That is the truth for all of us. No one is left out of Christ, and no one is without Christ in him. Thus, no one is without love in him. In this world, it seems to be the opposite. Everyone experiences fear and guilt. Everywhere we look, fear is being acted out in one form or another. Guilt is being assigned to everyone in one way or another. The president proclaims that Saddam Hussein must pay the ultimate price for what he has done. What is this but an expression of fear and guilt? When we perceive ourselves and everyone as alone and acting on their own, fear is inevitable. We protect ourselves by judgment and condemnation. When we refuse to talk to someone because of what we believe they have done to us, it is the same as calling for Saddam to pay the ultimate price. Both cases reflect the belief that we are separate and that harm is possible because separation is real. Love does not condemn. Love cannot isolate, for what is one with all cannot conceive of isolation. To know the Christ in us, we must let go of judgment. Christ, being love, does not judge. It sees only itself in everything it looks upon. To know the Christ in us, we must do the same. Thus we come back to the one. Thus we come back to the one means that will reveal the vision of Christ to us again. We must forgive. We cannot look to the world for the means to forgive. For the world was made to show us cause for condemnation. Instead, we must turn to the Holy Spirit in our minds, who gently and patiently guides our thoughts, and leads us to recognize that forms are illusions and cannot change the truth. He guides us to see the truth of love that unifies us all in one. He guides us to see that there is no value in specialness and uniqueness, only pain. He helps us to see that what we thought happened in this world of illusion never really occurred. Thus, we are able to forgive, for we recognize there is really nothing to forgive. The veil of judgment fades away, and we see the love in our brother that unifies us with our Creator. Fear disappears, and the joy of reunion with ourself sings through our being, and we give thanks. Thank you, everybody. I love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a
Thank-
wonderful week, everyone.
You too.
Very-
All right.
Only one more
Bye-bye.
this year. See you then.
Bye.
Everybody.